So now we're going to continue to our club program, and we have a very exciting program prepared for you by Roy Glickman, one of our very own members on the foundation. Since it is Foundation Month, it's very appropriate that we learn a little bit more about how the foundation works. No matter how many times I've heard this presentation, I still learn something new each time, and I think you will too. And the foundation can do wonderful things, as you'll find out. Roy has been doing some research, and we've been talking on the phone, and we continue to learn together each time. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce our very own Roy Glickman to tell us about the foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Thanks. I prepared an outline with some concepts on it. I hope everybody got a copy because it kind of helps categorize what the foundation does and how it works. First of all, we did a foundation program last year, and people may wonder why we're doing it again. One reason is because the foundation is important, and it's really important to know the good works it does so that we'll know why we want to contribute to it, because it only works if we support it with our financial contributions and our efforts. Also, this year there's a whole new grant system. As of July 1st, 2013, a pilot project became the new system for Rotary grants, and it's important to go through that so we have an idea of what's changed, what's not there anymore, because we tend to think in terms of the previous projects and groups that would come through different Rotary clubs, and it's not going to be the same as it used to be. It's simpler, I think it's more flexible, and I think you'll see why they did it as we talk a little bit about it. Mel mentioned that the foundation is old, and it actually was started in 1917 as an endowment fund, and it was called the Foundation first in 1928. And the first gift was $500 to the International Society of Crippled Children, which is now Easter Seals. So we were there at the beginning for Easter Seals. In 1947, they started the first regular program, which were ambassadorial scholarships, which we've all heard of. But under the new program, we don't have them anymore. They're gone. So we'll talk about what we've replaced them with. But as of now, there are no more ambassadorial scholarships. And the foundation last year received $180 million in receipts. It's up from $50 million in 1992. So you can see how much it's grown. It is almost 4 times as big on an annual basis as it was only 20 years ago. So the foundation is a real player, and it's important for us to know how we can work with the foundation and how we can use its funds to create some exciting projects. You may ask why we need a foundation. Well, one of the things the foundation does is it allows us to leverage our efforts. We can work with other clubs with money that we all pool together to work on projects we could never do on our own. And these are projects that the world needs. 2 million people die annually from waterborne diseases. 1 billion people lack access to clean water. 29,000 children under 5 die each day from preventable diseases. And 1.2 billion people can't read or write. So there's a real need out there that the foundation can serve, and we can be part of it. So first question is, what does the Rotary Foundation do with the money it gets? Well, as I showed on the outline, there's basically four pots of money in the foundation. 2 of them don't really deal with us. One is for polio, and one is a permanent fund. That's an endowment where the interest goes into the World Fund every year. But those 2 funds really don't distribute money to clubs like us. The 2 pots that are important to us are what's called the World Fund and the District Designated Funds. Now, the World Fund is 50% of the contributions made annually to Rotary that are unrestricted. So if $1 comes in, 50 cents goes to the World Fund, and that's distributed by the Rotary Foundation. The other 50 cents goes to a district fund, and 3 years after the donation, it comes back to the district. So both of those pots of money are available for different projects that clubs like ours can get involved with. And we need to know, how those funds then get distributed and how they can be used. By the way, if anybody has any questions, we're a small group, just ask me at any time. Or let's stop and talk about it. Okay, so So we have 4 different pots of money. 2 of them are important to us because they're World Fund money and they're district fund money. And our district is District 5280. So we have to work with our district if we want the district to provide funds for us. Now, under the old system, there were 12 different grants available. There were different programs governed by 12 different grant systems. The new system is only 3, so we don't have to worry about all those 12 different programs anymore. We have only 3, and really it boils down to only 2. And the 3 are called package grants, district grants, and global grants. And you can see that on that outline I sent out. The package grants are not really important for us at the moment. Those are strategic partnerships that Rotary Foundation has made with certain organizations. For example, there's something called a Mercy Ship, which is a big hospital ship. And Rotary has made a deal with the Mercy Ships that Rotary clubs will provide personnel to work on the Mercy Ships. A team of doctors, nurses, surgeons, ophthalmologists, whatever, that would go and serve a particular period of time on the Mercy Ship when it's in a certain area, usually West Africa. So a club could decide if they had a lot of medical personnel or if they knew medical personnel that we want to put together a team, we want to propose that team to go work on the Mercy Ship. But it's a very niche, I look at it as a very niche kind of program, and it's not something where our small club would really be able to take advantage at the moment. They have 3 or 4 other partners they're working with. One is a university that has scholarships available for medical personnel to go work in third world countries. There's one that's a microcredit program, and there's, let me see what the other one is. Forget. Oh, one is a water treatment program where students study water treatment programs, and then they can go back out in the community and help with those projects. So a club might sponsor a person to go study water treatment at a particular curriculum in the Netherlands, but it's a very small, narrow kind of focus, and there are only a limited number of scholarships or spots available. So I don't want to talk about package grants at the moment, but they're there. And that's part of the effort, I think, also to simplify things. Here it is, it's available, no money required. If you find the people, you can put them into these programs. What we need to talk about are the district grants and the global grants, because those are the ones that really affect us and that we can utilize for a project. So for a district grant, we have to look at what our district is doing, District 5280. District 5280 has decided for this year to put $90,000 aside for $2,000 grants. That makes 45 grants. We've applied for one. And if you look at the outline on the second page, you can see what that grant looks like that we requested. Under the Rotary E-Club Foundation projects, you can see that we asked for a district grant of $2,000. We coupled it with a club contribution of $250 because that's required. The district wants every club who wants a grant from the district to have some money in the grant. Our club is a small club, so they want $250. Other clubs are required to put up $500 or $750. So our contribution was $250. We got an additional contribution of $250, which may help us get the grant because it shows a little bit more money in the program. And then we're asking for a $2,000 grant from the district. So our budget is $2,500 for what's called a community grant. The district has divided its pot into community grants and other funding, which would be international projects. Our grant is it's on file. You file it online on the club's website, on the district's website. The district has all the information. We haven't heard back from them yet. They've told us that they're looking at it. They haven't asked for more information, although they did at one time. And we're proposing that we build a library for the Therapeutic Center for the Blind, which we toured last week. I think it's a worthwhile program. I think they will look at it that way, but we don't know for sure yet. So that's a community grant from the district. That's a district grant, and the district has set aside $90,000 this year for community grants. Those are local grants. They are to raise the profile of Rotary in the community. They require participation of another organization or other people, so it's not just Rotarians doing something. And it has to have some some kind of lasting impact. It's not just serving a meal at a homeless shelter or something like that, where you go, you do it, and you leave. You need to have some ongoing recognition of Rotary. And our project will have a plaque at the library that shows that Rotary donated the books and the shelving, and the books will have plaques in them showing that we donated them, assuming we get the grant. Now, the rest of the district's funds, these district designated funds as they're called, go for international projects. And you can see, let's see if I put it on. I think I did put it on the outline. The international projects are then doled out based on club requests with various factors being considered. And you can see that they base this on the humanitarian benefit, the need for the project, sustainability, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, which is a new concept in Rotary funding, and they've done a pretty good job of defining it. They want to know if you can measure the outcomes. They want to know how much our club contributed to the foundation over the last 3 years, because they don't want to give funds out to a lot of clubs that never donated any money to the foundation. It's one of those things where you kind of have to pay to play. If you put money in, then you can get group money out. And they also want to know how much our contribution is toward the total amount we want the district to fund. So if we're asking for $10,000, but our club is only putting up $500 for that project, that's not a lot. David?
Do they consider the Paul Harrises as part of that fund that the club contributes?
Yes, I think they would, because that's a member of our club contributing to the foundation. I can't say for sure, but
Yes.
we could check.
Yes,
Mel?
you can.
You can.
Any donation Sarah has made during the life of the E-Club counts for our E-Club's totals historically.
Right. Okay.
And the foundation does recognize newly chartered clubs and doesn't penalize them for not having been in existence for 3 years.
Right.
If the district foundation's people support the new young club's efforts, the Rotary Foundation will be on board with that and very happy about it.
Okay, that's good.
And then the other question is,
Yes.
do they count the rollovers?
From the previous club?
Clubs,
I think, well, no, they don't, huh?
No.
Mel says no.
Yeah, it's the contribution made by Rotarians in the club,
The club,
that they are in.
Right.
It's only during the course of our club's actual existence. Anything that I personally donated when I was a member of Sherman Oak Sunset helps the foundation, helps the people it helps, counts for my individual totals, which to my mind are still the least important things, but don't count for our E-Club.
Now remember here, we're talking about district funds that we're applying for, and the district is looking at how much money we have given to the foundation. It's not the Rotary Foundation itself looking at it, it's our district, because they're doling out district funds now, and they're deciding if our club should get it versus another club in the district. So it's an allocation among district clubs. So that's a district grant. They have two pots. One is the community pot of $90,000, our district does, and the other is the international funds of the balance, which they've told us is about 70%. So 30% are those community grants, 70% are the international. The other source of funds are global grants, and these come from the Rotary Foundation. So the Rotary Foundation takes that World Fund pot, which is the other half of the unrestricted funds that go in, and they now allocate that money to various projects that are proposed by districts or clubs. Now we've proposed, or we haven't quite proposed it yet, but we have a project in planning that's on the second page of the outline, which is what Sarah's been working on for the Thai school to build a garden. And the important thing about the global funds are that they are matching for the other funds that get put up for a project. So we can leverage whatever funds we can obtain for a project by getting matching funds from the Rotary Foundation. And the way it works is something like this, because I can't say for sure because I think I understand it, but it's a little bit confusing. We put up our own money. We have to have an international partner for an international project. So a local club in another country would put up money to work with us to do the project in that country. Now that has to be something more than $100, which used to be apparently the buy-in for local clubs. But the district tells us now it has to be $500 to $1,000. So let's say we find our club in Thailand to put up money with us. We put up money, they put up money. We go to our district and ask for money. They go to their district and ask for money. So assuming we get district contributions to go with club contributions, the Rotary Foundation will then match 100% of the district contributions and 50% of the club contributions. So if you look at the example here, for example, our club, let's assume we raised $6,000 for the Garden of Life project. And we got the local Thai club in Thailand to raise $4,000. That's $10,000 from the two clubs. I'm sorry, the $4,000 would come from a U.S. Thai club, the ones here in the area. So let's assume we're getting $10,000 from local clubs, and then we would get a $1,000 contribution from a club in Thailand. And let's assume also that we can get our district to contribute $5,000, and the Thai district to contribute $2,000. So now you have 3 clubs contributing and 2 districts contributing. The World Fund would then match 100% of the district contributions, which are $7,000, $5,000 from our district and $2,000 from the Thailand district. And then the World Fund would also match the club contributions at 50%. So basically, if you can get districts and clubs to put their money together to do an international project, you can get additional funds from the World Fund on a matching basis. Yes?
Okay. I went through the whole foundation training thing, and I'm still learning about it too.
Well, we all are.
Okay. The Thailand, the District 5280 contribution looks like it's equal to the contributions of the Thai club and the locally and abroad. Is that?
That's just coincidental.
It's a coincidental.
We just assumed those numbers because we
Okay.
thought that might be realistic.
Projections.
So it has nothing to do.
Right.
There's no. Okay.
Right. So, Sarah, do you want to add anything about that? Because you're working on the project.
Yeah, just so in reality, we do have supporting clubs in Thailand. Our friend of the club, Nan, has been on a visit, and she has gone to 3 different clubs. One in Ratchaburi, which is the province where the girls' school is. They're willing to be the host, the partner. And then 2 clubs in Bangkok are also interested in contributing. So we have 3 Thai clubs. And so already I think she's collected about $300 to $500, and it's still coming in. So as we learn more about how to funnel it to our project, we are collecting money. We already have $100 from a friend of the club here, and we have $75 from a person who makes up his meetings through our e-club programs. He wanted it designated for this project. So the word is getting out, and we are getting contributions. And so that's what I wanted to add at the reality. And so we have some local Thai money already, and we have our own local club monies already. Now we need, we have to decide, this is what's not clear to me yet, is how much money do we ask the district to contribute? I mean, is it just haphazard, or is it based on all the variables you mentioned earlier? How much we donate to the foundation, how active we are, how old we are, probably various variables.
I think we need to make that decision when we know how much we actually have contributed that can go into the project.
Right.
At this point. Well, I mean, our history is our history. There's no way to change it. So
Right.
we just have to raise some money and have some decent funds going into the project.
And what I know is a little bit different from what has been in the past is that the minimum amount you can go for is $30,000 on a global grant. It
Right, I
didn't
was gonna
used to
mention
be
that.
that way, yeah. So now all of it though, the bottom line of 30,000 plus has to do with the previous amounts we mentioned, with the matching funds and the 50% per dollar and everything that Roy just talked about.
So this is still a moving target, but it's at least a framework to start working on raising the money to do it. Yeah, no.
And the 30,000 is the total project budget.
Right.
So basically, all these contributions we're talking about, clubs in 2 different countries, and the district contributions, whatever they choose to make them, it's not formulaic. that must add up to a minimum of 30,000, as Roy has it in this example.
Right, and what's happened is the Rotary Foundation evaluated all its programs and saw that 80% of the money was going to small projects and 20% was going to larger projects. And they decided to flip that around. So now they want 80% of the money going to the larger projects, the ones that have a bigger, longer lasting impact, and only 20% will be budgeted for smaller projects. So they want a minimum of $30,000 for a project, and that means they want a minimum from their funds of $15,000 per grant. So it's a larger scale for these projects, not a little $2,500 or $5,000 project anymore. It's just a different concept. Yeah, Reed.
How do we determine what the cost of this project's going to be? I mean, you guys figure that all out ahead of time, or?
Yes.
You submitted a budget, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm working on a
All right.
budget right now
Yeah.
with our friend of the club, Nan, and the nun that runs the Thai school. So if the minimum we can apply for is 30, that'll go really far in cultivating a garden. As far as it's not only the garden itself, it's also preparing the girls for a vocation. So there's money cost to paying a teacher to teach them about agriculture. There's the cost of fertilizer, the cost of seeds and things like that. So it's still a work in progress. We're still in the research phase of the grant. So
Good.
this is why it's so great to hear all this today.
So we have two kinds of grants that are really important to us, global grants and district grants. And the next question is, what do they actually fund? What do we do with this money, and how do we pigeonhole it? And after researching how the foundation works, I realized there are just three things we do. I say just three. It's quite a scope, but we do scholarships, we do humanitarian projects, and we do vocational training. That's the new system. We do not do group study exchange anymore, which was really a cultural exchange of younger people. We now do vocational training teams, which can be any age, can go anywhere, can either receive training or give training. It can be any length of time. There's no specific time period, a month, 2 months, or 6 months. It has to have at least 3 people on it, 1 leader and 2 members. Rotarians can participate, but they don't have to be all Rotarians. If you put together a team of nurses to go teach pregnant mothers in an African community, for example, how to prevent the transmission of HIV, which is a project that Rotary did do, it would be nurses skilled in this who would teach and who would not necessarily be Rotarians, but there would have to be a Rotarian member of the team. But that's a replacement for the group study exchange. It's much more focused, it's much more substantive than I think the cultural exchanges were. And scholarships can now be almost anything. It can be undergraduate or graduate if it's district money. It can be for any length of time. It can be for any kind of course of study, unless it's a global grant, in which case it has to be within Rotary's specific areas of focus. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But scholarships have a much broader applicability now than they did before. And then the other projects that we fund are these humanitarian projects. And they can be almost anything, but I'll give you a couple of examples. One that have come up recently in the pilot project for this new system. One was purchasing an autoclave to pasteurize milk for a local milk bank. One was constructing wells and growing vegetables in Senegal. One was purchasing equipment for a pediatric health center in Togo and training local public health professionals on nutrition. And one was supplying neonatal medical equipment to a hospital in Guatemala. And you can combine these projects. So you could have a humanitarian project that involves a vocational team that goes with it. So you could buy the neonatal equipment and send a vocational team to train on how to use it. The flexibility is really quite remarkable in terms of the way they've set this up now. The issue is coming up with good projects that are well thought out. Yes, Linda?
On the vocational teams, is the leader, the Rotarian leader, are they required to be in the vocation as well?
Well, that's a good question. I couldn't quite figure that out. It seemed to be that all members of the team have to have skills in that vocation, whatever it is. I'm not sure if the Rotarian has to be the leader of the team. So
Okay, just has to be the Rotarian.
yeah, I think he may just have to be on the project. But it's quite impressive when you think about how many high-level teams could be created by Rotary through its contacts and its people to go do things, basically. So it's much more hands-on than the group study exchange was. It's to go somewhere and either teach or learn. There is an example in here of a student who went from the U.S. to Brazil to learn water treatment. Now that was a scholarship where a U.S. student went over to Brazil because they had a water treatment program that was very advanced over there. So these things can be used in many different ways, but it's basically scholarships, vocational teams, and humanitarian projects. And the limits are areas of focus, what do we focus on, and is it a sustainable project? And I put some of these on, I put all of them on the outline so you can kind of see what they are. We focus on peace and conflict resolution because there's so much conflict in the world, and our efforts can maybe help reduce some of that or eliminate some of it. Disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, which has been an area of focus for a long time, but no longer the little project, no longer the little water filtration system at a little school that only cost a few $1,000s and then is over with. Maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. So the project has to be within that area of focus for it to be eligible for a global grant and for most district grants. The district community grant, like our $2,000 grant that we apply for, does not have to be in the area of focus, but ours is anyway because it's in child development for blind and developmentally disabled children. Okay, so the money comes in the form of district grants and global grants. We use them for humanitarian projects, scholarships, and vocational teams. It has to be in an area of focus in most cases, and the new requirement is sustainability. And sustainability to Rotary is much more significant than sustainable coffee beans that you'll find at Whole Foods. This is fortunately a well thought out concept, I think, and it really has a meaning that we can apply. One is we need to deal with the local community to assess the need for the project. It's not us deciding that they need a particular water well or garden or something. It's the local community has to tell us, yes, this is what we want, this is what we need. We have to find materials for the project that are appropriate for that locale. We don't want to use very high-tech equipment in an area that couldn't use it or couldn't support it or maintain it. So we have to find locally purchasable materials or materials that are appropriate for wherever the community is. There has to be some ongoing local funding so that after we leave, after the Rotarians depart, the project is ongoing, usually with some kind of incentives for the local community to maintain it. Like the garden, people can make money by selling the vegetables, so there's an incentive to keep it up. I mean, if there was no incentive, the garden might disappear after one season. But if we can create those incentives, then it'll be ongoing. We need to make sure the beneficiaries are taught how to manage the project. We want to leave them with a knowledge of what they need to do to keep it going. We need to make sure they assume the operation, that they do take it over, so that when we're gone, they're in control. And we need to measure what we've done. Projects need to have a 3-year timetable of measuring the benefits of the project itself. So going into the project, we have to be able to say, this is how we're going to measure the outcome. If we can't measure the outcome and show how we're going to do that, the grant's not likely to be approved. So that's part of what we have to think about. Yeah, Yoko.
So the first thing you mentioned was that it has to be something that the local community needs, not
Right.
what we want them to have. So the Rotary Foundation, do they specify how we find out? Because oftentimes that's the problem, because of the distance. We want to do something, but
Right.
we don't know what they do.
Well, I
they
think
want.
that's why, one reason we need a local partner. You can't do an international club without a local partner. So you should have a local partner that can help you make that assessment. But also Rotary is flexible enough that they're saying to us, well, show us how you've assessed the local need. They don't want to, it's not a cookie cutter needs assessment. It's a general standard to assess the community needs and then tell Rotary how we've done it. And I think that gives us a lot of flexibility to do it. We just have to come up with a good way to do it.
Well, I think we've been fortunate that with Japan, we had people going over, and now with Thailand, we had Nan
Yes.
going over
Very
and
fortunate.
talking to,
Right.
you know, the principal and finding out what the needs are. So I think we've been
But-
fortunate there that we've already met that requirement.
Well, I don't know that we've met it, but we have the tools to meet it.
Mhm.
Right. It gives us the opportunity to put together our explanation of how we determine the need and how we use local sources to determine the need. Yeah. Okay, so that's sustainability in a nutshell, and it's something we have to be conscious of for all these projects because it's an important factor. We have our two projects that we're working on, which we've kind of gone over. Still waiting to hear on one, and the second one we're gonna put together and file. And the last point that's really important is we have to raise money. I mean, the foundation is there, it's got money, it's got a system to dole it out, but it's only really usable by us as a club if we put money into it. So we have to generate our own fundraising. Now, we can all contribute individually. You can do it online directly. You can have a deduction made from your bank account. You can send in a monthly check. They have various ways to do it that are really fairly painless. But it's one of those things where we need to get into the habit of doing it because it's worthwhile and it gives us the opportunity to expand our reach. Doing a food drive at Gelson's is really a nice thing, but it's very local and very limited. Whereas if we can do a larger project with some funds from Rotary and a local club in another country, I mean, it really expands it leverages our abilities.